Welcome to Expat Hoops, where we interview basketball players who have played professionally outside of the U.S. Today's guest is Malcolm Grant, who went to college at Villanova and Miami and has played pro ball in Europe, Australia, and Canada over 10 years.
But before we get to Malcolm, just another reminder to any new listeners that you can find all of our content on expathoops.com, as well as merchandise, so you can wear our logo with pride. And for our audio listeners, you can find exclusive content on YouTube. But you're listening to hear Malcolm's story, and let's get to it. Welcome to the pod, Malcolm.
Thank you. I appreciate it for having me on. How's everybody doing?
Good so far, other than a couple times through where I just was butchering the intro. But thank goodness we don't do this live and we get to cut that out.
It's all good.
But so we all were just laughing just a moment ago off the pod at how I can't do words good right now. But we got to start somewhere. Your college career, you actually started at Villanova under Jay Wright. He, as we're recording this in mid-May of 2022, and he's somewhat recently retired. You played a season. You kind of talked about it a little bit. I think it was probably closer to the time that you did the transfer, about what the reason for the transfer was. But you had some good games, but ultimately weren't able to get enough playing time. What was your process like in terms of deciding, okay, this is, Villanova is an amazing program. I know that since that period of time, you've certainly been pretty active on social media saying nice things about Coach Wright. So it's not anything where I think that there's necessarily any animosity, but like where, what did it look like for you saying, all right, Villanova is an excellent program, but I got to look somewhere else so I can get to play my shot? Or, was there a decision internally to say, maybe I should stick it out? What was it like for you at that point in time?
It was definitely a tough decision because, I wanted to be there. I was there with my friends, Corey Fisher, Antonio Pena, Corey Stokes. These are guys that, I grew up playing against or playing with. And, before we committed to going to Villanova, we all spoke and we said, this is where we're going to go. We're going to build a legacy here. And, before we got there, it was the players like Randy Foy, Alan Ray, Mike Nardi, Kyle Lowry. So, we wanted to repeat that. And, when I got there, I knew that I wasn't the most, popular of the incoming freshmen, even though, I was a good player, I had a pretty good name, but it wasn't as high as the Corey Fisher, the Corey Stokes. These guys went to powerhouse schools like St. Patrick's and St. Benedict's. So, going in there, I already had a chip on my shoulder and I knew I had to prove myself. And I felt in some games when I was able to play, I did that. As you mentioned, I had some great games. But, there's a thing called politics in basketball that, people don't know about, and it's real. And, like I said, just to make it clear for the audience, when you're coming from a school like Paul Robeson, where I went to high school at, which used to be a powerhouse, but is not anymore, but you're coming in with freshmen that played at St. Patrick's and St. Benedict's, Coach Wright is more likely going to recruit from those schools, and he's not really going to recruit from a Paul Robeson because there's not any players like that anymore. So, I had to be the sacrificial lamb, and he was kind of told me like, listen, you're going to play some or you're not going to play. And I had to decide whether I wanted to do that or not. I played a full season, and for me to have the career I wanted to have, I knew that I couldn't stick it out there because Scotty Reynolds, who was another great player at Villanova, he was really the deciding factor. A lot of people don't know that. I did want to stay. Like I said, I had been there a year. I created a family atmosphere. So we was waiting for Scotty to see if he was going to go to the NBA. If Scotty would have went to the NBA, I would have stayed. But he decided to come back. So that's when I ultimately knew I had to leave because it was going to be 2 years of that, of not being able to play. So that's 2 years gone. And now I only have 2 years left of eligibility to do something. So that was my deciding factor of, I think it's best if I transfer.
And who knows, you could have been, whether it was actually a talent thing or if it was, a spot gets promised to somebody else in recruiting, you could have been over recruited at that point. And you just don't know.
Honestly, right. And honestly, that's what I was told. I was told that, some coaches from on that side told him that, if you don't start playing my players more, you'll never get another player again. You know what I mean? Because if you look at it, it doesn't make sense. Here I am, a freshman, and I'm coming in games like LSU on national television. We're losing. I come in the game and bring us back. as a freshman. This is Big East versus SEC. We have a Pittsburgh game. Anybody knows how good Pittsburgh is. I come off the bench, have 22 points. We win the game. So I had games. So, it's not like I wasn't proving I can play on that level. Like I said, it's just, politics and, things you have to deal with.
And unfortunately, that's not the first thing we've ever heard before about politics. I mean, sometimes it can go to your benefit where if you go to a program, that's like Villanova, you might get a chance that maybe some other mid-major school doesn't with the similar statistics. So, there's tons of examples of it. And we've made this comment before on the pod, whether it's some people getting their first jobs because of somebody they knew. But, basketball is not immune from some of the stuff that we go through in our normal day-to-day lives.
Right. And, I try to tell people now, like I have one of my closest friends, a younger brother of mine who also went to my high school. He's in a situation like that now. We're trying to pick a school. And, I try to tell these guys, don't make the mistake I made. I was following the crowd instead of following my heart and paying attention to the signs, meaning I needed to go where a school needed me, not where they wanted me. Villanova didn't really want me. I mean, they didn't really need me. They wanted me. You know what I'm saying? And it's a difference. When they need you, okay, listen, you're coming in, you're going to play this amount of minutes. The ball is going to be put in your hands. You're going to have an opportunity to play well. Now, if you don't play well, that's on you. You know what I mean? So I make sure I give advice and tell these guys, don't go for the name of the school. Don't go for the name of the coach, none of that. When you're meeting with these schools, when you're meeting with these college coaches, make sure it's what you want. And if it is, then, that's how you pick your school.
Ball is life isn't necessarily a good thing all the time. Speaking of politics, the ball part's good. The life part, kind of iffy. So you go from Villanova, you end up in Miami. You start out with Frank Haith. He recruited you to come there. And then you ended up with Coach Jim Larrañaga after Haith moved on. Tell us first, do you think that there was, what can you point to as a difference in style between the two coaches that you played for?
That's a really good question. No one never asked me that before.
Oh, very good.
Excuse me.
I like the sound of that.
Yes, Coach L is very much more relaxed. He doesn't panic. Not saying that Coach Haith would panic, but there would be times in the game where it's like really intense, and the other team may be making a run, and Coach L is just kind of very positive all the time. Nothing negative to say, always cheering you on. And Coach Haith is more, how can I put it? He's more of an intense coach. You know what I mean? Like, he's very intense. He's going to push you, and he wants the best out of you. So I think that's the difference in between styles of Coach Haith and Coach L.
And during the course of your Miami career, what can you point to as some highlights?
I scored over 1,000 points. I was all ACC third team. Going into my senior year, I was preseason first team all ACC. So, these are all high accolades that any player wants to achieve playing at that level. And as far as me, I've always been kind of like the underdog, and, going into Miami, once again, every time I tell these stories, it's so much, and people are going to be like, man, this guy never catches a break, but it's just the truth. Going into Miami, I went there because Jack McClinton, anybody knows Jack McClinton, is a University of Miami legend. And he was a senior, and my best friend to this day, Lance Hurdle, was a senior. So, Coach Haith told me, listen, I told him, well, you have another point guard here. What about him? And he says to me, well, you're not better than him. So that kind of let me know, like, okay, the door's open. Like, you come in here and do what you're supposed to do. It's your show, which I did. But politics comes into play again. My brother to this day, Durant Scott, who was an amazing University of Miami basketball player, he's now coming to Miami. And at the time, he was the school's highest recruit for basketball. So now, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think I'm going to have the show, or you think somebody who's coming in who, like you said, we don't know what was promised to him before he gets there, he's going to come and now he gets the show? So my first year is kind of an up and down season. And I remember we lost to Duke in the ACC tournament. And after the season, they were saying, Durant Scott and Reggie Johnson, these two are going to be the reason why Miami is good. And I had to work my butt off that summer. I lost weight. I changed my eating habits. And that's how I was able to gain all ACC 13 my junior year. So that's why those things mean a lot to me, because, I was doubted and I had to work and prove myself that I can play at that level. And I had to prove to the doubters, like, I'm a force to be reckoned with.
So perhaps that experience, you had to work your way through a lot of stuff. That probably helped you a little bit heading into your pro career and figuring things out in terms of not necessarily having everything put toward you. An overseas athlete, it isn't the NBA. You're not a first round pick. Like, you got to go out there and search for stuff, and then you got to earn your keep. And a lot of times it's in situations we've seen in this podcast before that aren't great to start out with.
Right.
So first of all, when did you first start thinking about becoming a pro? And second of all, what was that transition like for you?
Well, since I've been playing basketball when I was 4 years old, I always wanted to be a pro. That's just a dream that anybody who plays any sport, I would think that at a young age you want to be a pro. And it starts getting serious your senior year of college if you have to play 4 years of college, which I played 4 years. And my senior year, if anybody doesn't know, my brother, he passed away. So that kind of messed my season up and messed my numbers up. So, dealing with that after the season, you have to look for agents and, you have to find someone who's going to represent you the right way. You know what I mean? So that was the transition of, okay, here's your senior season. This is what your numbers are. Are you going to be able to go to the NBA? Are you going to be able to get NBA workouts? If not, we have to work on you getting overseas. So, that was the process.
And with you in particular, as you alluded to it, real life had an impact on your numbers. And was it, from a practical standpoint, either in talking with agents or talking with teams to get your initial job? You're, from a human perspective, you're grieving for the loss of your brother, but was it also something that you had to deal with in terms of either you individually or the agent doing on your behalf have to actually kind of sell some teams on the idea of, look, this is the stuff that was going on in senior year, the junior year numbers you see, that's what you're getting?
Right. I think it's that, they have to be able to, that's their job as an agent. They have to be able to sell you and because, if you're not one of those guys that's going in the first round or high picks, you have to be able to sell your players. So I think it's the agent's job to make sure they're representing you the right way and not just putting you anywhere, and that's a lot of issues that players deal with, especially going overseas. You have agents that's a crooked business, first of all. A lot of them is just money hungry. And their thing is, well, I got you a job. And, from a player standpoint, it's like, well, don't just give me any job, give me the right job. Because now if you give me any job, I go over there and things don't pan out. Now you're messing with my career because once again, let's be honest, it's about numbers. That's how you get the better jobs. Even, of course, your team winning and all that, but you have to be doing something to make a team want to like you. You know what I mean? So agents have to understand, as well as the player have to do their job as well. You have to go out there and perform, but the agent has to do their job and represent you the right way and make sure that they're putting you in the opportunity to, be successful.
So your first job out of college, I believe, is Cyprus, right?
Absolutely.
We've talked to somebody else on the pod, and actually I think I've seen you interact with him on Twitter too. Tyreek Duran. His first job. Yep. His first job was in Cyprus as well. And if I'm recalling now, it's probably about a year or so ago we talked to him. He had never been outside the country, and even though he freely admitted Cyprus is beautiful when you get there and everything like that, he still was kind of looking like, oh my gosh, I'm on the other side of the world. What am I doing over here? What was your experience like? Because Cyprus was also your first job.
Right. You hit it on the nail. Me being from Brooklyn, New York, I remember going to prep school was like tough for me, not being home and being away from, everything that you're comfortable with. So now, like you said, you're going overseas. It's a time difference. The food is different. Sometimes you go in the store and you're looking for, something and they may not have it. You have to use Google Translate, or you may have to find someone in the store that speaks English, a little bit of English to translate for you. So it was definitely an adjustment. And like you said, it being my rookie year, what helped me was my teammate was Mike Morrison, who went to George Mason.
That's one of our friends, Mike Mo.
That's my brother. Like, that is my brother. If he didn't tell you, ask him who taught him how to make pasta. I taught him how to make pasta, and he cooks pasta very well now because of me. So don't let him tell you anything different. But having him as a teammate and, just being there, he was a rookie as well. And we were also signed with the same agency. That was very, very big for me. And we lived together. So I was able to have someone there with me instead of, being in an apartment by yourself. And, when you're up, your friends and family back home is asleep. And for you to talk to them, you have to wait till it's extremely late. You know what I mean? So it's tough, man. And that's why I get so frustrated with how we're treated as players over there, because teams don't understand the sacrifice that we make as players. Leaving your family, dealing with time difference, or, practicing every day and not having the resources of a rehab or having ice sometimes. Just small things that people overlook. These are huge things. And, we deal with a lot over there. So Cyprus was definitely an adjustment. Beautiful place, though. Beautiful place. And I have a funny story. I played against Tyreek. I was in Lithuania and he was in Cyprus, and we were in the FIBA Cup. And they came to Lithuania. We smacked them bad. We killed them. And how FIBA Cup works is when we beat them, we had to go to Cyprus and play them. Now, for them to get to the next round, they had to beat us, I believe, by the same amount of points or more.
Yep. And on the aggregate, basically. And
we're in Cyprus. The refs tried it. They tried to help them because we were killing them. And next thing you know, we're not getting any more foul calls. Every time they go to the hole, they getting all the fouls, and we wind up beating them. And for people that don't know, Cyprus is a very dangerous place. And when we were leaving, I remember fans trying to spit at us and throwing things at us and trying to wait for us after the game. So it's listen, man, it gets very crazy overseas.
I was actually going to ask while we're on the subject. Cypriot basketball is a pretty intense fan experience.
Oh my gosh.
We've had people tell stories about flares getting thrown at them.
Torrey, he was bringing the ball up the floor, and he had one shot at him while he was bringing the ball up the floor.
Wait, what Torrey?
Torrey Thomas.
That's my boy. Oh, we know a lot of people. We got a lot of people in common.
That's the other funny thing about doing this podcast is all of a sudden it becomes a very small world.
Yeah, basketball is a small world. That's very, very good dude, man. I love Torrey. Torrey's a great dude, man. And Cyprus is crazy. I remember when we played over there, we were playing against a rival. Before the game, they were throwing paper towel on the floor, flares on the court, and then after we beat the rival team, they told us wait in the locker room about 20 minutes for everybody to clear out, because if they know you're in there, they're going to try to come in there. So it's very dangerous, man. Very, very dangerous.
So this is a question I have with when you're talking about the story with playing against Tyreek's team.
Mm-hmm.
I know that you've had games over. Well, I'm almost certain that you've had games in America to that point in your career where you're like, man, these refs don't like us. We're not getting the calls, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you might be able to say something or whatever. What was your either advice or experience in dealing with that, where you're like, okay, this is a different level where we're not getting calls. It doesn't matter what I say. And you just got to kind of slog through it, I guess. I mean, what's that like where you're like, literally, this is different level stuff?
I mean, that was their advice. I remember all the older guys on my team was like, listen, the Americans is not going to get any calls, or certain games when you play certain teams, because this team may have a big budget. They may have a certain amount of championships in that league. So if you play them, you're definitely not getting any calls. Games like that, you have to beat them by a certain amount of points, because if it's close, you're not going to win the game. And, even to this day, playing over there, it's extremely frustrating because it's like, do I have to be bleeding? Do my bones have to be broke for you to see I'm getting fouled? Like, calls to foul. So, it's tough, man. But like you said, you got to slug through. It's kind of like jail ball. Like, you kind of got to get after it, man, and fight through it. These is different, man. It's extremely different.
We're only in year one.
So no, we're not even done with year one yet.
Yeah.
Fortunately, your next spot does get a lot better in year one, but we're not even done with year one yet.
Oh my God! Listen, man, it's stories for days. It's story for days.
I mean, this could be the Cyprus podcast at this point, but we will move on. Off pod, we were talking a little bit about some of your best stops, and the next one, you split year one between Cyprus and Australia.
Yeah.
For then the Wollongong Hawks. Now they're the Illawarra Hawks, which some of our listeners may very well know. Friends Isaac White, Antonius Cleveland. A lot of those guys have been great in coming on. But you go there in 2013 when the league is a little bit different. As we said off the pod, that league has come a long way in a pretty short period of time. But even where it was back then, still one of your better spots. Take us through why that was the case and how you wind up going to Australia mid-season. Well, I guess depending on how the seasons fall, splitting year one.
Well, what happened was I was cut from Cyprus, which was crushing for me because I had never been cut before in my life. You know, since I've been playing basketball, I've always, started on teams, and like I said, I've never been cut. So, being cut for the first time in my life as a pro is very crushing. And, shout out to, my OGs that was on the team. They told me, like, listen, you're going to see, especially if you stay in this market, which is the Europe market, you're going to be cut again. So don't even let this, deter you. Don't let this mess up your confidence. This is just what comes with it. So what happened was I was cut. I went home, and like I mentioned before, Lance Hurdle, who is my best friend to this day, he went to Miami when I was there. He was in Australia, and he wound up tearing his ACL. So, and let me tell you how God works. He winds up tearing his ACL, and now I'm home, I'm frustrated, I'm looking for a job. And he goes, bro, my team was looking for a guard, right? I'm like, for real? He's like, yeah. He's like, you want me to mention your name to him? I'm like, hell yeah, tell him I want to come out there. And he's like, all right. But, I'm thinking, man, he's just talking. He's not really going to do anything. And a few days later, he's like, bro, how much you looking for? And, they're interested. And I said, you serious? And he said, yeah. And then, I got on the phone with the team. They was like, well, listen, it's not that many games left, but we need a guard. Would you be interested in coming? And the good thing about that was, like I said, my best friend was out there. They let him rehab out there. So now I have someone I can talk to. I was dealing with being cut, still dealing with that, not being able to understand why I was cut and feeling like I wasn't given a fair chance. So to be out there with my best friend was definitely a blessing. And, when you get there, the weather is amazing. The weather is amazing. It's always hot for the most part. It rains, but not like, not for long. It rained for a little bit, then it gets back hot. The league was amazing. Johnny Flynn was there, a Syracuse standout, also played in the NBA. I got a chance to play against my idol, someone who I grew up idolizing, and my high school I went to was because of him, Gary Irvin. We played against each other out there. So it was definitely a great experience for me.
Thanks to SeatGeek for sponsoring Expat Hoops. We recently became a brand ambassador for them. SeatGeek is a ticket app that takes the confusion out of buying tickets. They offer a 0 to 10 score on each ticket to know if you're getting a good or a bad deal. Green means good, red means bad. You get the idea. It's a really easy way to get tickets to events. Plus, our viewers get $20 off their first ticket purchase with the Expat Hoops code. Click the link in the description to download the app. Remember the code Expat Hoops, EXPATHOOPS, all one word, to save yourself $20 off your first ticket purchase with SeatGeek.
In our house, when we use a VPN, we are sure to use NordVPN. NordVPN secures up to 6 devices and is compatible with Windows, Mac OS, Linux, Android, iOS, and even your Wi-Fi router. Plus, it's no risk to your wallet. Head over to their website for pricing or contact customer support 24/7. And remember, your purchase is always safe with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Click the link in the video description to use our code and make sure you're secure with NordVPN. Year two, you're in Halifax in Canada and you're in Sweden. So two places, not a lot of guests have played in Halifax, especially.
Right.
What was your experience there? How did you end up splitting your second season with there and Sweden?
Halifax. How did I get to Halifax? Halifax has a special connection with New York players. I can't remember exactly how I got there, but when I got there, I was with Hall of Fame. He should be a Hall of Famer in my eyes. Craig Hodges, who played with Michael Jordan. He was my coach. And I think the plan was for me, I needed to get some type of film or some stats out there so people can, I'm active, I'm not out of shape. And I think the plan was, come play. And, if a team comes calling, we'll let you go. And that's exactly what happened. I wound up going to Canada, playing really well, was having good numbers. And a team from Sweden calls and says, I see your numbers. And this is like the story of my career as far as overseas playing in Europe. Coach calls like, I see your numbers. I like the way you play. We're going to offer you more money. Come play in Sweden. I'm like, cool. I was so hooked on, trying to get to Europe and getting to the Euro League level and all of that. So I'm like, okay, I leave in the middle of the season. I get to Sweden. It's nothing what the coach says. I get there. From day one, he's riding me. Shoot. And we're in practice. He's like, shoot. Like, just keep telling me to shoot, which you would think every player wants to hear. But it's like, listen, I've been playing this game since I was... Right. We're talking about practice, one. And two, I've been playing this game since I was 4 years old. I played in the Big East. I played in the ACC, arguably the two best conferences in the world. I know when to shoot and when to pass. Like, let me play my game. You know what I mean? And it was so bad to even one of the local players had to tell him, like, yo, relax on him. Like, relax on him. And just riding me. Didn't play well out there. Wasn't being myself.
It doesn't sound like you had much help. So
wind up getting cut again. You know what I mean? And
sounded like that was kind of inevitable, unfortunately.
Well, it's
set up to fail.
It sounded like, he had watched some film or something, and then apparently it just, by the way, didn't actually
he was like a junior in high school.
Yeah.
you know what it is that, a lot of these teams, they want you to come over there and be, LeBron, or, they want you to be these guys, but don't necessarily put you in position to be successful. Obviously, I will never be LeBron or ever put up those numbers. But I'm saying, as far as, if you're looking at the film, are you really watching it? Or are you just saying, hey, this guy scored 20 points. He scored 18 points. This is what we need. No, you should look and see, do I fit into your team? Is my style of play what you need for this team? And no, they don't do that. A lot of times they may be under pressure from management saying, hey, listen, you better get another American or we're going to cut you, or you need to win this many amount of games, or we're going to cut you. So it's like, get whatever we can get. You know what I mean? And, like I said, it's just sad, but, I've had a string of bad luck, as far as playing in Europe. And that was one of the cases. Like I said, I get out there. He's just riding me uncontrollably to a point I'm like losing my mind. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do this. And like I said, I got cut again.
So in contrast to the first time when you got cut, where you were kind of, it sounded like you were a little despondent the first time you got cut. Right. Was the second time basically like, oh, thank God it's over?
I was like, you know what? If this is how it's going to be, I'm cool. Let me go home and, let me figure something out. Because, the way I play, certain players, you don't have to have a leash on them. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that, just let me run wild, because I'm not even that kind of player. But, my style of play, I'm a student of the game. I'm always studying the game. And you don't have to be so rough on me. It's like, do this and like a robot. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you really watch my game, you understand, like, hey, this guy's a playmaker. He understands, Let me give him some freedom. Obviously, I still want him to do what I want him to do, but I don't have to be so rough and so, like robotic with him. You know what I mean? And that's a lot of times my issue. And, just speaking with other great players like a Tu Holloway, who went to Xavier, who should be in the NBA, AJ English, one of the best players in Delaware. He has some struggles with playing in Europe, and that's because guys with certain style of play, you get to Europe and it's like you have chains on you. I heard Gilbert Arenas say something one time. Some coaches are the best defenders that a player will ever see. You know what I mean? Some coaches are first team all defense. It's not even the guys they're playing against. It's the coach. It's because you have chains on the player. Let the guy play. If you see he can play, let him play. You know what I mean? So,
Gilbert has some quotes. That guy,
Yeah.
That guy's a quote.
He
machine.
definitely does. Now, Gilbert is crazy. He says a lot of crazy things, but that right there, I agree with.
I mean, quote machine, again, ball is life. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's not.
It is, man. It is.
Wait. You mean to tell me a guy that just randomly yells out hibachi may not be always crazy, may not always be sane?
It is, man. It is. Honestly, when you play overseas, you have to kind of get lucky, to be honest, and that's not taken away from guys who, I'm not saying, you don't have to work hard. Of course, you have to work hard and put the work in, but there's plenty of guys who work extremely hard and then get in situations and it's like, this guy's not good. And it's like, no, that's not the case. He's just not in the right situation. Like a Mike James, for example, who played he played with the Brooklyn Nets. He's considered the best player in Europe. He didn't start off like that. He had some struggles and he found a team, got lucky where a coach allowed him to play. He played well, they won. Then it goes on from there. You know what I mean? But a lot of guys don't get that opportunity. And that's one of my issues with the NBA, because they should put money into the G League. Real money into the G League, because trust me, if it was real money in the G League, a lot of guys wouldn't go overseas, because guys don't really want to go over there. They go over there because they love the game of basketball. This is how they provide for themselves and their family. But if it was a way for them to stay home, your family can come to games. You don't have a time difference. You can eat the food you want. Oh my God, it was a totally different ball game.
For sure,
absolutely.
For sure. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because your riffs, by the way, very good. I love the content. So I want to talk about a couple of places, because you mentioned Lithuania before. Not many of our podcasts have played in Lithuania. And same year, in year 6, you played in Kazakhstan for Astana, which both are interesting locations. Both are locations that not many of our guests are played for. However, a recent guest has played in Astana in the Velodrome, the center of the Velodrome, which is always an interesting experience. So tell us about your year 6 when you split between Lithuania and Kazakhstan, two places that are a bit unrelated, and having them in the same year. They're worlds apart.
Well, listen, you hit it right on the worlds apart, totally different. That was one of my better years. Lithuania, I went out there, like I mentioned before, we was in the FIBA Cup. And for the audience, when you're playing, then you have your Lithuanian league, and then you have like the FIBA Cup and the Euro Cup and stuff like that I mentioned before. That's equivalent to, let's say, for instance, college. You have your non-league games and you have your league games. You know what I mean? So the Lithuania year, we were in the FIBA Cup. We were in the Lithuanian League in the FIBA Cup, and we went. We were going playing really well, and we were on our way to the second round of the FIBA Cup. Again, now the team's not paying, and they're months behind. And sometimes when I tell these stories, it's like, geez, I don't want these guys to be like, man, it's always something with this guy. But I promise you, this is just, like I said, this is really my reality, man. I don't want people to think I'm like a bad kid or anything like that. It's just, this is my story.
No, I have to interrupt you here. If anybody consistently listens to our pod, first of all, they already know, they already get it. Because unfortunately, we've heard this over and over and over again. The people that have no troubles are uncommon. They're not the norm.
Okay. Okay, so I just wanted to get that clear, because sometimes people be like, well, it has to be this guy, but I'm telling you, it's overseas is different, man.
Yeah,
So
we'll plug our own stuff and tell people to go back in time and listen to our old interviews, and they'll figure out real
Okay.
fast if this is their
Yeah.
first experience with Expat Hoops.
I appreciate it. So like I was saying, I'm playing really well. I was the leading scorer of the league in Lithuania. I'm playing really, really well. Definitely making a name for myself now. We're playing against Euro Cup teams, Champion League teams. We're beating them. And now the team is months behind with pay. And I'm like, in our contracts, when you sign to play overseas, there's something in it that says you get paid on a certain day. If they don't pay you on that day, you have a certain amount of days for them to pay you. Once those days are up, you don't have to go to practice or games. You don't have to do anything until you get your pay. The problem is these teams do that to players and players don't follow it. They continue to practice. They continue to play and do all of that. I'm not doing that. If you want me to come over there and do what I'm obligated to do, which is be on time for practice, don't cause any troubles off the court. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't party. I practice hard, I go home, I'm producing. Then you have to do your job, which is have the payment on time, make sure I have Wi-Fi so I can talk to my family and things like that. They're not doing that, and they're months behind. So now it's past the time for I don't have to do anything. I don't have to go to practice or anything like that. I follow through with it. They tried to crucify me. Who does this kid think he is? He thinks he's a superstar. He doesn't want to practice. He doesn't want to play the game. And it's like, no, that's not the case. The case is you guys are not doing what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to pay me on a certain day. If you don't pay me on that day, then you have a certain amount of time to pay me. You guys didn't do that. So that was a big thing. We was going back and forth with that. And the GM of the time, which was a lady, I remember her saying in the media, he's going to wish he never did that. We're going to make sure he's going to wish he never did that before. She didn't think that I was going to win the case. But what I did was I was saving screenshots of things that they were saying that they weren't supposed to be saying. And I was proving that they were late with payments. And I wound up winning the case. So this Astana team came and they said, listen, you've been playing well. We want you to come. And they offered me more money. I was able to get out of that deal in Lithuania. And that's how I got to Astana. And that was totally different. I think it's 12 hours ahead.
Something
it's
like
12
that, yeah.
hours ahead.
Yeah.
It's snowing,
Mm-hmm.
Extremely cold. But like I said, I had a great time. I was there with 4 other Americans who I'm still close with to this day. I was able to play in the VTB league and get some more exposure and, showcase my talent. So even though there was some bad, there was also some good.
I have a question for you that I'm a little surprised. I've actually never thought about this. And I think that probably might be a testament to people that haven't had this issue. But sometimes in my day job, you start seeing like some landlord tenant disputes, and if somebody stops paying rent or something like that, there's they might start an eviction proceeding, basically some sort of attack against you. You talked about with the Lithuania situation, how they basically dragged your name through the mud in the media, and that was one of their tactics. But did they ever do anything like, a lot of these situations, you might have an apartment that's provided by the team and things like that. Have you ever faced anything, whether it was there or otherwise, where they actually started really kind of messing around with, outside of your pay, like, whether, the heat isn't
cut the Wi-Fi off or something like that? No.
Yeah.
Thank God. And that's a great question. Thank God. I've never dealt with that. And it's funny that you say that because, I think about that sometimes, like, and that's the scary part of being overseas. Like, I'm in their country, they're providing this stuff. At any point, they can be like, you know what? He want to play around? He's finished. No Wi-Fi, none of that. And, there are stories like that out there. But like I said, in my case, I haven't dealt with anything like that. Like I said, for that, they weren't paying. And, once they saw that I was serious and I was going to win the case, the GM, she asked me to come to the office and she said, well, listen, what if I pay you, but I don't pay any of the other players? And I was just raised a certain way, man. I said, absolutely not. I said, because there's guys on this team, there's local players on this team that have families, that have a wife and that have kids. What I look like, playing and getting my money, and you're not paying these guys. These guys are, some guys, they don't play basketball all day like me. Some of them have day jobs, and then from their day job, they come to practice and practice extremely hard, battling through injuries, and then you're not going to pay them. So I said, absolutely not.
Ooh, what a choice. That's definitely one that we have not heard before.
Yeah, definitely. Sure. I'll never forget it. She said, well, what if we pay you, but we don't pay the other players? I said, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
That's crazy.
That's one of those ones that I think probably as you go on, you get a little bit more confident. And you're like, how about you pay both?
Right.
Like a professional basketball franchise.
Yeah.
You know what's so crazy is like, we're actually winning. Like this is a team that's, weren't good in the past, never been to the players. We're actually winning games. We're beating Euro Cup teams. We're beating Champion League teams. We're going to the second round of the FIBA Cup. That's huge. Why wouldn't you reward your players and pay them? And this is why I say, and FIBA also has to take accountability, because they don't do anything to protect the players. FIBA, it should be a rule that if you want a team, you have to prove every month that you can pay on time, that you can have, ice for the players, you can have Wi-Fi, you provide food for them, you provide, transportation. If you can't prove that, you can't have a team. And it's like, you just on your own over there. And it's scary, it's sad, and it's not fair. It really isn't fair, man.
Mm-mm.
It's no players union, none of that. A team in Lithuania, another team, when I went back to Lithuania, another team owed me money. They lost the case. I had to wait, I think, 3 years to get my money.
Without interest, right?
Without yo. And then, I'm paying all of this. I'm paying this lawyer. I'm paying this guy. And, you finally win. And it's like, well, you can't get your money right now. The team doesn't have the money. So you have to wait for the team to get their money. But yet they're signing new players. How you don't have the money, but you're bringing in new imports? You understand? So it's like, if I have my way, like I said, every time I get on a platform, I'm going to talk about all of this, because it has to change. It has to change.
We have merch. Head over to the Expat Hoop store, where you'll find t-shirts, hoodies, masks, coffee mugs, pint glasses, and more.
It's one of many ways you can show support for the podcast, so head over there and pick up some merch. That link below is in the video description, or you can head over to our website, expathoops.com, and click merch. We offer a couple of different Expat Hoops logos, and we have men's, women's, and kids sizes, so you can get something for everyone. So I'm going to bounce around a little bit, because you talked about, FIBA and all that stuff. You're now a decade into your career.
Yes.
You've had ups and downs. You've talked about the things you like and dislike. Where are you in terms of where you go from here?
Well, I'm getting to the point, I was just able to have, my first child, which was a boy. Super, super thankful for that. So now, I'm getting to the point where it's like, do you want to keep doing this? Do you want to keep leaving your family? Especially now with COVID, you have to be vaccinated. My lady, she's not really with the vaccination for her own reasons. So it's like, well, do I keep leaving? You know what I mean? So it's like, now I have to start thinking about what I want to do next. I still keep in contact with Coach Wright. I actually have a lot of skits of my time playing at Villanova, and I impersonate him, and he loves them. So, it's just a lot of things that I want to do. Definitely want to do some coaching. I have my brand, which is called the 4-Step. This is this generation sham guard move. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the sham guard, but I have my own move, which is called the 4-Step, and it's kind of like, the sham guard for this generation. I'm pushing that brand. And the thing that's special about that is I'm bringing everybody together. I'm a guy who believes in, treating everybody the same, no matter what color you are. There's so much evil in the world, and, I want to bring nothing but positive energy and, just be a positive light. So with the 4-step, I have a chance to, I have kids in, Africa doing the move. I have kids in Canada doing the move. I have kids in Croatia doing the move. You know what I mean? And when I'm teaching them this move, I'm also teaching them about life and, my experiences and, how to go about things in life. So these are things that I'm working on is apart from, playing basketball and working on, what's next for me.
I have to say too, I cringed a little bit when you said the sham god for this generation, because I'm like, no, but wait, we are that generation. Andy and I were like, wait,
Yeah,
I remember that.
I chose to stay quiet on that one.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's just very
I'm
funny.
sorry.
I was having fun.
I apologize. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I'm just joking. So yeah.
We do have to talk about Iran. We can't finish up anything in this pod until we talk about your experience in Iran. Mm-hmm. We talked off the pod about the time leaving the country. However, I do have to ask, while you're in Iran, I have, through various channels of my own work, known a lot of people from Iran. Mm-hmm. I have some good friends from there that came over here for various reasons. What was it like during your time there? And then you can get into the crazy story of when you were leaving the country.
Iran, surprisingly, wasn't as bad as people were making it seem. When I was, telling people I was going to Iran, it was like, whoa, you're going, like, you sure you want to do that? And I don't think you should do that. It's very dangerous. And I was kind of skeptical about going there. But, when I got there, definitely wasn't, what they made it seem. People are very respectful, very humble, very welcoming. All of my teammates treated me as a brother. The food was pretty good. I found a place that had hot wings and French fries. I was eating it damn near every day. Like it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. And like I said, we said off air, that was my best year as far as basketball wise. And because I finally found a coach who saw me as a player. I like to think of myself as like a diamond in the rough. And he saw me and he didn't look at, oh, well, this guy's been cut this many times, or, this team said this. He looked at me. We spoke on the phone. He got a good, we spoke, and I told him who I was as a person and as a player. And when I got out there, he allowed me to be myself. I had great numbers. We went to the playoffs. Obviously, we didn't get a chance to win the championship, but it was a great season. I had a lot of fun with those guys, still keep in contact with them to this day. And Iran was beautiful as far as basketball. Leaving, when the season was over, time to leave. The team wasn't the most professional team, I get to the airport and, I'm thinking I'm getting ready to get on the plane to go see my family. And the guy stops me and says, you can't leave. And he was kind of like aggressive with it. Like, you can't leave and get out of my face. So I'm like, wow, I'm kind of nervous because, like I said, I'm not from there. They don't really speak English like that. And I was asking him why I can't leave. And he just kept telling me, get out of my face, as if he thought I knew already, which I didn't know. And, I'm walking around the airport. I'm nervous. There's no Wi-Fi in the airport, so I can't call my team and tell them this. And, I thank God there was a guy, he was getting ready to get on, go through clearance, and he saw me nervous. And he asked me, what's wrong? And I told him, listen, I just finished playing basketball for this team. I want to go home and see my family, but this guy's not letting me go through. He explained that there was a certain paper. I think it was my visa. I think my visa had ran out. And I needed to prove that I was there for a certain amount of days for me to leave. And he allowed me to use his phone. I called my team. They were an hour and 30 minutes away. They had to drive all the way back to the airport to come get me. We had to go to the hotel that was close by, and they had to take care of the paperwork. And then I was able to leave the next day. I had to buy my own plane ticket, which they're supposed to buy the ticket. I had to buy my own plane ticket. It was about $900. They told me they would refund me. They didn't do that, but this is all part of it.
And so now you're here.
So now I'm here.
And what was the last season like for you?
I was just in Kosovo. It was solid. Played pretty well. We got to the championship. I thought I was going to win my first championship. We came up short, but it was a solid year. I think for me, what's best for me is, I think like the Middle East market, South America, because, that's more my style of play. So I told my agent, no more Europe. You would think after all those years, all those stories I'm telling you guys, you would think I would say I'm done with Europe, but I told you I was caught up in, I want to make a certain amount of money. I want to get to this level because I'm a competitor. I think I can play at that level, but you just get to a certain point where you're tired of the nonsense. You know what I mean? So moving forward, my last couple of years, I want to play in hopefully the Middle East, South America, and, just finish up strong. I want to have fun again with basketball.
Well, one thing I have as a question for that, we've kind of avoided it in this conversation because we've talked about the different spots.
Mm-hmm.
One, we did talk a little bit earlier on about an agent. One of the things that's common is a lot of times people change agents because certain agents are good with certain areas, or sometimes things just evolve. Number one, I guess the first part of the question I have for you is, are you still with the same agent? Number two, are you looking to make a change, or is your current agent now good with the areas that you want to be in? Or is that something that you're having to kind of adjust now that your focus is, I know I want to be in either the Middle East or South America?
Once again, amazing questions. Nobody's ever asked me these questions before, so great job. No, I'm not with the same agent I started out with. And Coach L, I'll never forget, he told me this when I was going through the process after my senior year. He told me, it's very rare that you stick with the agent that you start off with. He said you're going to have a whole bunch of agents. And he did not lie. I may be on my 5th or 6th agent. You know what I mean? And the agent I'm with now, he's very understanding, communicates very well, and we work well together. You know what I mean? I told him, listen, if we're going to do this, we have to be on the same page at all times. We have to communicate at all times. And I told him, I can't do Europe anymore. I just can't. First, it's 10 months. Like I said, with the COVID and the vaccine, leaving my family for 10 months is crazy. I can't do that. And, Middle East and South America, those are shorter seasons. You know what I mean? So I won't be going that long if they decide not to come. You know what I mean? So it's just much better for me if I do that. But like I said, my new agent, we work well together. And, that's what we're working on next. We're working on trying to get something for the summer and then, into the fall.
Well, Malcolm, it's been a lot of fun having you on the podcast today, but we're not done yet. As we said at the beginning of the pod, if you're listening on audio, head over to YouTube and you can hear the rest of our interview and the questions that we had for Malcolm, including his best trash talk story. But for now, Malcolm, thanks for being on the pod.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was definitely a great time.
Hello, and thanks for watching. Be sure to give the video a like, and you can watch more videos over here. You can also click subscribe over here so you're notified when we have new content here on Expat Hoops.